first of all, we need to check in with our producer, who is producing today live from the saloon bar. Sister Sue's just checking you there.
I am.
And fully in control of everything that's happening.
Oh, always.
Yeah. What did you do yesterday? Was it free chili with every glass of something? Is that how it went?
Yes. Monday nights in the pub are free chili or curry nights.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's it's really nice. £3 a pint on some pints.
£3 a pint?
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
And some free chili. So, if you're hungry, you can get your dinner and a pint.
Wow. And is that just for students?
No, for everybody.
Oh, okay, it's very good. Anyway, if only we mentioned the pub, who would know what we're dealing about. Yeah. Anyway, today's confession and another smart speaker to give away. It goes to Nigel. Nigel, thank you very much. Simon and the crew. By the way, 12 certificate on this one.
Oh, really?
Contains comic book violence.
Okay.
My story is about the revenge of a much maligned and mistreated child on his adult nemesis. The grand old age of 59, I think it's time I finally got something off my chest, Father Simon. In 1970, when I was just 7 years old, I was a first-year junior in Class 11 at St Custard's Infants and Junior School. I had a female teacher by the name of Miss Arbuthnot, a substantial Welsh woman who clearly hated me. I never gave her cause to be so vile to me, but from day one, she took an instant dislike to me and I got the blame for everything. It didn't matter. If someone was talking, it was me who got the blame. If something got broken, it was me who broke it. If something got stolen, it was me who stole it. If someone left the taps running in the staff toilets, it was definitely me. If the cricket pavilion had somehow blown away in a force 10, guess who would have got the blame? She never blamed the sunshine, the moonlight or the boogie.
No.
She just blamed me, 7-year-old Nigel. I was always getting sent out of class to stand outside the headmaster's office, so you get the drift. I put up with this nonsense for almost the whole of the school year until it was the week of the break before the summer holidays. You remember how all of the work that you'd done and been put on the walls was all taken down, ready to be taken home for the next year's intern coming in. Well, the work was either thrown away there and then, or you got to take yours home, where it then got thrown away by your parents eventually, after it's stuck on the fridge for about a year. Well, anyway, Miss Arbuthnot's desk was littered with drawings, paintings, poems, and drawing pins. Now, I'm not talking about the namby-pamby ones you used to put up Christmas decorations. I'm talking about real school drawing pins.
Oh, yeah.
Not the weedy wet ones for weedy wets, but sturdy British drawing pins with proper upstanding values. More to the point being the appropriate word, they were the type of drawing pin you saw in the Beano.
Yes.
The kind the Bass Street kids might use for a jolly wheeze. Anyway, it was lunchtime and Miss Arbuthnot was always first out of the door to get to the dining hall, leaving many of the kids in the class. I used to go home for lunch and walk back with a friend. As I waited for him to come to my class, I devised a plan. When all the other kids had left, don't try any of this at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I took one of the drawing pins and I put it on her chair. And I pushed the chair back under her desk. I didn't tell anyone, not even my friend. I didn't even tell him what I'd done. Plausible deniability, I think it's called. I absolutely was ahead of the game here. I couldn't wait to get back into school after lunch to see the fruition of my revenge. Not quite sure that works. Anyway, to see a Beano comic strip come to actual life, because this kind of thing happens all the time in comics.
Yes.
Can it actually happen in real life? All of us kids had to stand when Miss Arbuthnot sat down. I say sat down, but actually she dropped onto the chair, a bit like a Harrier jump jet. Just like she was in Billy Bunter. She shouted, Yaroo! And then oof! And then yow! Exclamation mark! She stood up faster than she'd sat down. How I kept a straight face, Father Simon, to this day I do not know. But it still makes me laugh as I think of it now. Well, this time she went around the entire class and asked each of us in turn, had we put a drawing pin on her chair? Not an ordinary drawing pin, but a school drawing pin with upstanding values. When she got to me, she asked if I'd put the pin on her chair, and I said, no, perhaps the pin on your chair rolled off your desk, miss. Much to my surprise, even though I'd used a patronising voice, I didn't get the blame this time. So it remains for me to say, if you're out there, Miss Arbuthnot, and listening, it actually was me.
Yeah.
And I realised that it is most definitely not the way to behave, and that we should show respect to teachers at all times, even those like Miss Arbuthnot. All the best, guys, says Nigel. Could you spot the bit that was
Yes, I can.
that wasn't quite in the original?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not. I think Nigel is in trouble here. St Custard's Infants and Junior School. Miss Arbuthnot sounds like an interesting teacher, an interesting class. Sister Susie, what say you?
Well, Nigel, I do feel for you because I have been that child in the class myself. I was a geography teacher who I got the blame for every noise in the class, and I didn't do all of it. I did some of it, but not all of it.
Right.
So I do feel for you. However, I do think it's a bit mean, and that must have really hurt. And I just, and also not owning up to it. I can't forgive you. Sorry, Nigel.
I thought it
Not
wasn't going to go
forgiven from
very
me.
well there for you, Nigel. Brother from another gutter.
I mean,
probably-
yes, I have to say, I don't think she was hurt too bad. I mean, it's just drawing pin, isn't it? And
Ouch.
you know, I mean, they're very small, and I don't think they'll cause her any lasting pain. And also, I get the feeling she offered him the chance of redemption by saying, "I think it probably is Nigel who's done this because I blame him for everything else." And she gives him the chance, and he says, "No, it wasn't me," and offers, I think, a pretty plausible excuse of the pin might have rolled there. So in a way, didn't they all win? Didn't we all learn a lesson? I think we all did.
No.
So for that reason,
Let us know if you're floundering.
so for that reason, I
Yes?
choose to forgive.
The morals of the cesspit in action once again. Do you forgive Nigel, yes or no? On the text, please, 61054. Start your message with Simon. Email simon@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Forgiveness, yes or no? People's verdict on tonight's confession, which came from Nigel at St Custard Infant School, involved Miss Arbuthnot and a drawing pin. Here's the people's verdict.
So Dennis says forgiven. The teacher was obviously not very sharp. Danny says forgiven. Anybody who can get one over the teacher will do for me. Imagine how many times he was blamed for things he didn't do. Finally got a chance to turn the tables. And finally, Katie in Beresford says forgiven. I did it to my teacher, but it was worse as she was also my mother. All the class knew it was me. I told her I'd done it. I was punished at school and then at home. It gave me great satisfaction as I hated being in her class.
So your confession, please, send it here. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Time. Well, the first thing to do is to check in with producer Susie, Sister Susie there in the saloon bar. Just make sure everything is fine. How are we doing today, producer?
Good, I think.
Yeah. How many marks out of 10 do we get, do you think?
Well, it's your birthday, so you can get an extra one. So I think that
3.
makes it 11.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Very good.
Yeah.
What is our drink of the day?
I think a very large gin and tonic today.
Why
sounds
not?
Like a good
You
idea.
tend to think that most days, right? I think. Okay. Here comes to the... No more shit. Shut up. Shut up. It's part of the theatre of the mind.
Isn't it just
I'm not
though?
quite sure what's going to happen. Today's confession comes from Dave D. Thank you, Dave D. Simon, I'd like to tell you about my... contains bad behaviour.
Okay.
This one. 12
Oh,
certificate.
dear.
Don't they
I'd
all?
like to tell you about my travelling tour in 1978. That's where we are, 78, and myself and a group of friends. We're called Dozy, Beaky, Mick and Titch.
Yep.
We bought a Bristol bus and converted it into a mobile home for the trip of a lifetime from Bristol, across Europe, through Asia to India.
Wow.
James May could make a TV series out
Yeah.
of this. Before we left Bristol, we were interviewed by the local Bristol Evening Post with the headline, On the Adventure Trail. The HTV channel also interviewed us. We travelled through many countries in Europe. Mick was the first casualty because he got lovesick and he was missing his girlfriend or something. Returned home when we reached Portugal. Dozy returned home shortly due to family problems. So myself, Beaky and Titch, therefore, continued on our trip. We did encounter a few problems in Turkey. We were also in Iran when martial law was declared and had a few problems at the border in Afghanistan. But anyway, we eventually reached India and we spent 6 months travelling from north to south. What a holiday this is. So we were travelling through Pakistan and, obviously we left India behind. It is about midday and we were approaching a busy junction. In front of us was a policeman, stood on a sentry box controlling the traffic. He spotted us straight away. Probably because the bus was painted red, white and blue.
Yeah.
And on the front it said,
goodness.
Bristol Bus, England.
Okay.
That's what it said. As we got to the junction, the policeman stopped all the traffic, including us, and got down from his platform. He then walked over to us and in perfect English said, "Would you like to take tea with me?" It was a very hot day, so the three of us said, yes, please. He then left the traffic to sort itself out.
Oh, right.
And by the side of the road was a type of mud hut. He then clicked his fingers and a young fella came running. The policeman said to him, could you get tea for my friends? And the young chap came back minutes later with tea and cake.
Fabulous.
This is good.
Wow.
We all then sat down eating cake and drinking tea when suddenly the policeman said, do you want to smoke? Well, my first thought was smoking is for losers, but he then produced some roll-ups from inside his pocket.
Okay.
And he said, all I want in return is a cassette tape of the latest music that they are playing in the UK. Well, we said yes to the policeman, and I then walked back to the bus. I opened a large case at the front of the bus which contained all our cassettes. At the time, get this for our playlist here, Fleetwood Mac, because Rumours was our favourite tape. But we also had Queen, the Eagles, Bob Dylan, Cat Stevens, Pink Floyd, Elton John. In fact, everything that we play here.
Yeah.
And many others, plus one or two different types of music. Searching through the tapes, I suddenly stopped and said to the policeman, this is the one. This is the one that they're all playing back in the UK. He had a big smile on his face, and I must admit, I had a slight grin on my face too. He then put the tape in his top pocket, thanked me, and gave me the roll-ups. We finished our tea, shook hands, said our goodbyes, and then walked back to the bus. The policeman then got back on his platform, stopped all the traffic, and waved our bus through as though we were royalty. We then waved him goodbye. After a while, Titch said to me, did you give him his cassette? And I said yes. After a long pause, Beaky said, which one did you give him? To which I replied, Max Bygrave's greatest hits.
Oh, yes.
We all then fell about laughing. As we were walking back to the bus from the tea hut, the policeman also said to me that he was going to invite all his family and friends round that evening. So you can just imagine the look on his face when he put on the tape and said, this is what they're all listening to in England.
When it's spring again, I'll bring again tulips from Amsterdam.
And they'd have looked all a little bit puzzled. And then also...
You're a pink toothbrush.
Oh, yes.
Toothbrush, won't you marry me in haste?
Father Simon, to this day, I still smile every time I hear a song from Max Bygraves, and I can't help but think of that policeman directing the traffic while singing along to all the hits of Max Bygraves. What a decade the 70s was, Father Simon. I do not seek forgiveness for accepting the roll-ups, although all smoking is a stupid activity. I realise that now, but it was the fact that he would be inviting all his family and friends around to listen to the hot, groovy sounds of Max Bygraves that made me laugh the most. Many thanks, yours sincerely, Dave D. Okay, well, let's check in with Sister Susie first of all. With, there's a lot of rock. First time Max Bygraves has been on Drive Time, I think.
Yeah,
for a while.
definitely.
What do you
First
say
time.
What do you say to Dave D?
Well, Dave D, do you know what? I've got a few issues with you here. I just think it was a bit mean, really, overall. You know, you had loads of choice to choose from. You could have gone with Fleetwood Mac. You could have gone with Elton John.
Yeah.
You know, any of those things. That policeman was really lovely to you. He got you tea. He got you cake. You know, he exchanged some roll-ups for you. You shouldn't smoke anyway, so you should have said no. And I just think you were just a bit mean. And what? You could have given him a nice tape. Can you imagine getting all your family around to listen to that?
Yes.
Not forgiven.
Also, it's kind of misleading because then people would have, all his family would have gone round and thought, well, they got rubbish taste, didn't they, in England?
Well, am I going to be the sole voice here in favour of Max Bygraves? And that's, I mean, come on, it's Tulips from Amsterdam. It's a classic. Absolutely love it. Nothing to forgive. Yes, indeed.
I'm a pink toothbrush.
Yes, your magic toothbrush as well.
Toothbrush. Will you marry me?
Marry me. Yes, indeed. So I nothing to forgive. And also, when you're on those journeys, and I've done that sort of long journey, and you've got your tapes, and you don't really want to be giving away the ones that you listen to all the time, like your Fleetwood Macs and your Pink Floyds. So you're probably gonna, Max Bygraves, but it's still crossing all the boundaries. Well done to you, Max. So yes, definitely forgiven.
So it's 1-1 in the studio. It's all down to you. The people's verdict, please. 61054. First word is Simon. Do you forgive Dave D, Beaky, Mick and Titch, or no? Simon at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. We just had a confession from Dave D, who whilst on world travels, he's in Pakistan, and for a small bribe, he exchanged this bribe for a Max Bygraves cassette, rather than the Heart of Rock and Roll, which is what he had in the rest of his collection. People's verdict like this.
So Jeff of Brixham says, forgiven. I can just imagine the policeman's family all singing Mad Max songs. Love it. Alita Phipps in North Wales. Not forgiven. What on earth was a cool dude of the 70s doing with a Max Bygraves cassette in the first place? Happy birthday to Simon, by by the way. And Connor says, forgiven, I'm sure someone somewhere in the UK was listening to Max at the time. Love the show, listening while dolphin spotting in Wales.
Very nice, very beautiful. Your confession would be welcome. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Gong bath tonight, says Linda.
Gong bath?
A gong bath, yes.
A bath for the gong?
No,
What?
I looked it up, and it's a type of meditation where you bathe in the healing sounds of the gong. That's basically
Sorry. What? So so it's no water.
no water. You lie down and you.
This is not real.
It's a real thing.
You lie down and someone bangs a gong.
Get it on, bang a gong.
Bang a
Yeah,
gong.
it's like a gong bath.
Have you ever? It is a gong bath.
Yeah.
Have you had
It's
one?
not. No, it's not. It's not a gong bath. It's
That's
just
what it's
lying
called.
down while someone. I
No,
lie
because you're
down.
bathed in the sound of the gong.
Anyway, none of this is relevant. None of this is
business.
relevant. Thank you, Linda, for that. Here comes today's tale. Another smart speaker going out. This time it goes out to Scrawny Lad. It sounds like he's won the 3:30 at Chepstow. Scrawny Lad says, Father Simon and the Angels of Mercy, hopefully not the coven of condemnation, I seek absolution. Let me take you back to the early 80s, a time of TV shows like The Gaffer, Minder, George and Mildred. TV was different then. Mainstream sport included Big Daddy wrestling on World of Sport and the magnificent speedboat giveaway that was Bullseye.
Oh yeah.
At that time, I was a teenager at a comprehensive school a few hundred yards from the Wembley Stadium complex. Many opportunities came our way to hang around the arena and sometimes blag cheap tickets to gigs from touts just as the gigs were starting and as the touts were packing up and heading to the pub. Among loads of others, I saw Joni Mitchell for 50p, David
Wow.
Bowie for 50p,
What?
Meatloaf for £1 and Neil Young for nothing. I feel I also had a casual job at the arena, which I got via a mate's mum. This is where the economy worked back then, who was manager for the catering franchisees at the time. I was the beer barrel roller. I literally rolled out the barrel.
Oh, very good.
There's the song from 1927. I guess that's what you do all the time, Suze, isn't it? Rolling out barrels.
Yeah, I don't. But
Yeah,
yes.
have staff to do that, yeah. It wasn't all rock and roll glamour, please be assured. Wembley Complex was host to some rather more dull events which lasted for days. Model railway exhibitions, for example.
Oh, steady on.
And Hooray Henry events like Horse of the Year show
Okay.
and the Royal International Horse Show.
Yeah, right.
These horse shows were quite the spectacle.
I'll bet they were.
If you were a posh pony person.
Okay, right.
But I was not a posh pony person,
Right.
says Scrawny Lad. Back then, behind the stage at the west end of the Wembley Arena auditorium was a huge open rectangular space from floor to roof with hangar-type doors through which the band's stage gear trucks could be driven. To the south of this space was a large cafe. To the north of the space was a big bar, and at the horsey events, this was branded the Fox Hunter Bar. This is your crowd.
Yeah, definitely.
On the day for which I seek absolution, between the hangar doors and the cafe was a very high chair, up about a dozen steps. On the Fox Hunter bar side, behind the west tier seating, was a raised plinth with a TV producer, a TV camera, and a camera operator. In the high chair, beneath a hairy boom microphone, was the anchorman of much of BBC Sport of the day, David Vine.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you, rolling out an empty 11-gallon beer barrel over concrete makes quite a din. Dragging empty gas cylinders over concrete is even louder. My accomplice and I were quite accomplished at rolling barrels. They can career off in odd directions. We were careful not to crash them into Mr. Vine's high chair, even though we were unaware that he was doing a take, a rehearsal or something else, but hopefully not live. Anyway, he was very rude about the noise, and he cursed.
So unlike David
At
Vine.
us.
Yeah.
We politely told him we were just doing our job, just like you, and suggested he might like to take a chill pill. Strangely, he was rude again
Okay.
and told us in no uncertain terms that our noise was unacceptable. He could have asked nicely, but he didn't, and so we hatched a plan. We would carry the empty barrels and gas bottles from the concourse to a discreet position out of sight of the production team, but from where we could see the high chair resident at a tangent from behind. We waited. When he got the cue and he was in full presentation swing, we would knock over the gas bottle and drop a barrel, apologise, and then roll and drag them out, making a hell of a din. Mr. Vine's cheeks got progressively redder and his brow more furrowed with each unnecessary disturbance from us. We even got a wink from Harvey Smith, who was at the Fox Hunter bar.
Yeah, right.
He must have sussed our little game.
Yeah.
The hard bit was not laughing out loud as we sniggered past time and again as the gasket on the high chair got closer to explosion. So Father Simon says, scrawny lad, your astral assistance, I seek absolution. Not from the BBC licence payer for wasted VT, not from Harvey Smith for tarring him with the posh pony person brush, not even from David Vine, even though he probably didn't really want to present hours of horsey drivel, but from this has a certain editorial line.
Okay.
But from my mate's mum, who must have got it loud and clear in both lug holes from the Wembley management. The catering franchise was let to a US firm within a couple of months.
Oh.
And I'm wondering whether it actually might have been my fault. Well, I think it could well have been. P.S. I hope the old lady who ran the cafe didn't lose her job too. See, there are real-world implications for your clever prank, scrawny lad. Sister Suzu's rolled out a few barrels.
Real consequences, yeah. Scrawny lad, it's just that I can't describe to you the noise of both a gas canister dragged along the floor and rolling out a barrel. It's so noisy, and it is horrible. And it's not just horrible, you didn't ruin the take, but everyone around there would have been really annoyed by that noise constantly. And you probably would have damaged your hearing as well. So for that reason, not going to forgive you.
Yeah, I'm with David Vine, definitely. He was the pro trying to do his job. Anyway, what do you say?
Well, I mean, obviously, hello to all of our horsey friends, obviously, and Harvey
no
Smith.
Offence.
No, none at all. Harvey Smith, a great reference. I'm going to say forgiven because, Dave Vine's such a pro. Dealt with it, didn't he? A lot of noise going on, but he dealt with it, so that's fine. He was absolutely fine with it. And you've got a job to do. You've got to roll your barrels, and sometimes that's going to be a little bit noisy. And I'm sure David was well able to deal with it and all of that. So, again, big hello to our horsey friends, and definitely forgiven.
Yes, we don't agree with Scrawny Lad. It's just very much his own editorial.
Of course.
I think. But it's the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Scrawny Lad? Yes or no? On the text 61054, start your message with Simon. You can email simon@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Right, people's verdict on today's confession, which came from Scrawny Lad about how he ruined a live outside broadcast with the legend that is David Vine at Wembley Stadium. People's verdict.
So Simon says forgiven. Scrawny lad was just trying to get a job at Susie's as the cellar man.
That's true.
Amanda Harkett says forgiven. Even though I was one of those horsey types who was at Horse of the Year show every year and would make sure I walked behind David Vine on the way to the Fox Hunter bar. Can picture it now. Brilliant. And Sarah in Bracknell says not forgiven. I can barely keep it together when my husband uses the coffee machine behind me while I'm in a meeting. So I can't imagine the pain that David Vine was in hearing that screeching and scraping when he's trying to string a sentence together.
So no forgiveness there. Okay, Scrawny Lad, you get the smart speaker. Maybe you're a posh pony person, or just a pony person, in fact, with a confession. In which case, send it our way. Confessions at Greatest Hits Radio.